I hadn't visited home in more than a year. Work, life, and everything in between had kept me away. But now, with an unexpected 3-day break, I finally had a chance. My parents lived on the opposite side of the state, and it was a 6-hour drive I was eager to finish quickly. I didn't plan on stopping except to refuel, but by early afternoon, hunger changed that plan. A quick bite wouldn't hurt. I pulled off the highway when I saw a KFC sign ahead. It was a small, standalone place, the kind you'd miss unless you were looking. It sat just off a quiet stretch of road, isolated and easy to overlook. I debated going through the drive-thru but remembered I'd promised my girlfriend I wouldn't eat in her car. Inside, it was nearly empty. Just one older lady behind the counter who greeted me with a kind smile. "Afternoon, hon, what can I get you?" I ordered a Pepsi and some chicken tenders. "Back in a sec," she said and headed into the kitchen. I sat by the window, watching fields stretch out toward the darkening sky, storm clouds gathering in the distance. Then, I noticed a vehicle pulling off the highway. At first, I didn't think much of it, just another car, right? But as it neared, I realized it wasn't a car at all. It was a long, aged black limousine, the paint dulled and grimy. It came to a stop right in front of the KFC. The driver's door opened, and a woman stepped out, wearing a wedding dress. I blinked. The dress was high-end, covered in lace and embroidery, but it was dirty and the hem was stained. Her veil hung crooked, showing tangled hair. She walked directly toward the entrance. Trying not to stare, I looked down into my drink. The door chimed. Our eyes met. Even with mascara streaks and ruined makeup, she was stunning in a tragic way. She approached. "Mind if I sit?" Her voice was soft, tired. Sure," I said. She sat across from me like we were at a fancy dinner, not a roadside fast food place. We sat in silence for a bit. I debated asking what happened. Was she left at the altar? But something about her face told me the truth was darker. Then she asked, "Am I hideous?" That threw me. "No, not at all," I replied quickly. She studied me, fingers tracing a salt shaker. "Do you think I'm attractive?" I choked on my drink. She didn't wait for an answer. "James said he was." "But he lied." "James?" I asked. She nodded. "You're sweet," she said, smiling, but her eyes stayed cold. Then she reached across and held my hand. I froze. Her gloves were lace, but stained a deep red, blood. I tried to pull away. She gripped tighter. "Let's run away together, Tom." My stomach dropped. I hadn't told her my name. I need to get going," I stammered. Just then, the older woman returned with my food. She gave the bride a strange look. "Well, don't you look lovely," she said, tight-lipped. "Thank you," the bride answered, not releasing my hand. "My friend Tom and I were talking. Please leave." The worker gave a forced smile and walked back to the kitchen. I scooted toward the door. The bride stood abruptly. "You're leaving me too," she snapped. "No," I lied. "Just grabbing something from the car." She smiled. "I'll come with you." I tried to stay calm as we walked outside. We passed the limo. Its front fender was crushed, blood streaked across it. "That was our best man," she said sweetly. "Or what was left of him." I felt sick. "I'm sure he deserved it," I muttered. "He did." She beamed. "James is in the back. Want to see him?" "And no," I said quickly. "You deserve better." She looked pleased. I reached the car. "I just need to grab my..." I yanked the door open and jumped in. She caught it before I could slam it shut. "You're leaving me too," she whispered. I reached for the keys, too late. She punched me. My keys flew from my hands. You're just like James, she hissed, lunging, hands around my neck, nails digging in. Then, bang. A shotgun blast rang out. She collapsed. The old woman stood there, holding the shotgun. I gasped, clutching my throat. Back inside, Han, she said calmly. We need to call the police. The storm rumbled in the distance. I wasn't hungry anymore. I never expected a job at KFC to turn my world upside down. I'd worked there a year, mostly night shifts, simple work, decent enough while I figured out my next move. The routine was predictable: clock in, cook chicken, deal with a few customers, clean up, clock out. I wasn't close with the other staff, but we got along. Tony, the manager, was strict but decent. Most nights were uneventful, quiet, slow. Until about a month ago. That's when I started getting weird messages on Instagram. You still flipping chicken at that dump? I ignored it. Just another troll. I had over 100k followers, and trolls were part of the deal. But then. KFC suits you. You always stank like grease in high school. That stopped me cold. I never talked about high school online. My brand was body positivity, living your best life, not old wounds. I replied. Do I know you? No answer. Silence for a few days. Then, I was working late, cleaning up. My coworker Lisa was mopping near the fryer. The place was empty except one last customer, a woman in a hoodie, face down in her phone. She'd been there a long time. Tony nudged me. Go tell her we're closing. I approached, awkward. Hey, sorry, we're about to close up. She looked up. Her face wasn't familiar. But those eyes, icy. You really don't remember me, do you? She said. Should I? She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Don't worry. You will. Then she got up and left. I was rattled. Later that night, lying in bed, I got another message, a photo. My apartment building. Taken from the street. Still don't remember me. My throat went dry. How did she know where I lived? I responded. Who the hell are you? No answer. I barely slept. Every creak outside made me flinch. Morning came. I checked my phone. A new post. A photo of me. Asleep. In my bed. Caption, sweet dreams. The angle, it was from inside my apartment. I freaked. Ran to check my locks, windows. All secured. I called the cops. They found no sign of a break-in. No prints. No entry points. They filed a report, but I could tell they didn't take it seriously. I almost didn't go to work that night. But I didn't want to give in to fear. Big mistake. The shift started normal. Jokes with Lisa, Tony yelling at us to focus. Then around 10 p.m., she walked in. She didn't order. Just sat at a booth. Watching me. I tried to ignore it. Then my phone buzzed. Check your lipstick. Heart pounding, I rushed to the bathroom. Nothing looked different. But something felt off. I smeared a little on a napkin and ran it under water. It bled, and something chemical leaked with it. Before I could react, I heard Lisa scream. I ran out. The fryer, on fire. Flames licking the ceiling. Tony yelled, grabbing an extinguisher. I turned to run, and saw her. Just standing in the doorway. Smiling. We fled outside. Tony put the fire out, but the damage was done. Later, the police found something in the fryer, a melted plastic bottle. Full of accelerant. It was arson. And I knew exactly who did it. That night, one last message came. Now you remember me. And I did. Senior year. A girl, quiet, awkward, always alone. Scribbling in her notebook. One day she tried to sit with us. My friends laughed. I didn't stop them. She left. Humiliated. I never saw her again. Until now. I want to say I'm sorry. That I never meant to hurt her. But it's too late. She's out there. Watching. And I know this isn't over. I never imagined a job at KFC could put me in danger. It sounds absurd, right? The risk wasn't from burns, late-night shifts, or even the occasional robbery. It was from the people. You never really know who you're working beside, until it's too late. I was just a regular kitchen worker when I suggested hiring Nathan. If I had known what he was, I would have kept my mouth shut. At first, he seemed ideal, well-dressed, polite, eager. He told me KFC was his dream job. Said he loved the crispy skin and secret spices. He answered every interview question too perfectly, like he had practiced. At the start, he was a model employee, on time, reliable, always volunteering for extra shifts. But after a while, something changed. He started showing up at strange hours, sometimes hours early, sometimes staying long after his shift ended. He would sit alone in the break room, staring blankly into space. His appearance deteriorated. Wrinkled clothes. Greasy hair. Dark circles under his eyes. When he spoke, it felt like his mind was somewhere else. One night, I found him standing alone in the kitchen long after close. When I called his name, he seemed startled. Said he was just thinking. I didn't push. Then, chicken started going missing, but not the meat. Someone was peeling the golden, crispy skin off and tossing the rest. We thought it was a customer, until Lisa saw him crouched behind boxes, stuffing handfuls of chicken skin into his mouth, eyes wild and unblinking. Our manager, Louis, decided to let him go. I offered to talk to him, but Louis insisted on handling it. An hour later, I saw Nathan heading to the office. He looked terrible, sweaty, twitchy, but smiled when he saw me. "You're a good friend, Ryan," he said, then disappeared behind the door. That was the last time anyone saw Louis alive. When I checked, the office was empty, except for Louis's phone and a metallic smell in the air. Then I saw the blood. His body was on the floor, eyes frozen in horror. His skin, stripped away. Arms, legs, face, peeled like a chicken thigh. I turned to run, and there stood Nathan, shirtless, covered in blood. His grin stretched unnaturally across his face. "Did you know?" he whispered. "The skin's the best part." I backed up, heart racing. "Nathan, what did you do?" He pointed to his head. "It's not in a vault. The secret recipe, it's in us." I punched him and tried to run, but he yanked me down. He was too strong. Desperate, I played along. "Louis is gone. I'm the boss now." That made him pause. "You don't want to be fired, right?" His face lit up. "I can be employee of the month." And just like that, he ran back to the kitchen. I locked the door and called the cops. They dragged him out, screaming and covered in blood. Later, I learned he didn't go to jail. He was sent to a psychiatric facility, and worse, his family had a history of violence. Serial killers, on the run, using him as some kind of twisted experiment. I quit that week. And I haven't eaten KFC since. I never wanted to work in fast food, let alone manage a KFC. But life doesn't care about your plans. No degree. No direction. I took the job to cover the bills, telling myself it was temporary. But temporary turned into 2 years. Most days were predictable. Lunch rush. Dinner rush. Then long, slow hours where the fryer smell clung to your skin and weird customers made time crawl. I'd seen my share of drunks and creeps, but none like him. It was a slow afternoon when he walked in. Mid-40s maybe, thinning hair, dressed neat. He stood too still, didn't look at the menu. Then he walked up to me and stuck out his hand. "How much does a polar bear weigh?" he asked. I blinked. "Enough to break the ice," he chuckled. "I'm Dave." He squinted at my name tag. "Mia. Beautiful name. It suits you." I forced a smile, trying to be polite. "Thanks. Enjoy your meal." Then he said it, "Would you go on a date with me?" I stumbled through an excuse. "I have a boyfriend." "Not interested." "Not right now." I stayed professional. But he wouldn't let it go. "Just give me your number," he pressed. "I can call you later." "I really need to get back to work," I said. His eyes didn't move from my face. Like he was memorizing it. I'd dealt with pushy customers before, but something about Dave felt off. A few nights later, I was working the drive-thru. The dining area was closed. A voice came through the speaker. "Hey, Mia. How's your night?" My stomach dropped. "Just a small drink," he said casually. When he pulled up, he handed me a small red box. "For you." "I can't accept gifts," I said quickly. "Come on," he insisted. "It's just something small." His smile faded when I refused. He drove off without the drink. Later, he called the store. "Is Mia working tonight?" My coworker, unaware, said yes. He kept showing up. Sometimes he didn't even order anything. Just stared at the building. At me. He found out where I lived. One night, I got off late, around 1 a.m. I just wanted to go home, shower, sleep. I pulled onto the road and saw his car in my rearview. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. Then his headlights flashed. He followed me onto the highway. I took random turns. He stayed behind me. Finally, I saw a police car ahead and sped toward it. The lights came on. Dave swerved into another lane, disappearing into the night. But before he turned, I saw his face. He wasn't smiling anymore. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, he came through the drive-thru again. Before he could say a word, I snapped. "I will never go out with you. Stop mistaking politeness for interest. This is harassment." The whole place went quiet. "Follow me again," I said, "and I'll call the police." His expression shifted, rage, shame, something I couldn't name. Then he left. I thought that was the end. Until later that night, a coworker handed me a note. "He left this for you." Inside was a card. "Mia, you have the prettiest eyes. I'd love to keep them in a jar on my desk. So I can look at them all day." That time, the police took it seriously. I filed for a restraining order, changed my address, quit my job. But even now, whenever I drive alone at night, I check my mirror. Just in case. I'd been working at KFC for years, through high school and into college. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid the bills, and I appreciated the routine. The location was close to home, so I kept the job even after starting college. I knew the regulars, the flow of customers, and even the little quirks of the place, like how the ice machine clicked weirdly before releasing a new batch, or how the front door would stick unless you pulled it just right. Most shifts blended into one another, lunch, dinner, and long periods of quiet cleaning. Sometimes, though, things got weird. A drunk guy passed out in a booth. Someone threw a fit over forgotten sauce. Shoplifters snatched random things. But nothing ever seemed truly dangerous, until one particular night. It had been a slow evening. I was on drive-through duty and there were only a few cars every so often. I was just counting down the minutes until we could start closing up. That's when I noticed a van sitting in the parking lot. It had been there for hours. I figured it belonged to someone inside, but as I looked around at the nearly empty dining room, I realized none of the customers matched the sketchy vibe the van gave off. It was an older vehicle, probably late 90s, paint peeling in patches, and the windows were heavily tinted. I pointed it out to my coworker Will while we wiped down counters. "You think someone's sleeping in there?" I asked. He squinted, shrugged. "Maybe. Or they're waiting on someone." "Waiting for who, though?" I muttered. I tried to ignore the uneasy feeling, thinking maybe someone was just killing time waiting for a friend working nearby. But then the door chimed. A man walked in. I can't explain it, but something about him instantly felt wrong. He looked like he was dressed for a costume party: oversized tattered suit jacket, a stained white shirt, threadbare pants, mismatched shoes. His greasy hair hung in thin strands over his forehead. But it was his face that made my skin crawl, completely blank, eyes wide but unfocused, like he wasn't even really seeing anything. He didn't glance at the menu, didn't acknowledge the food warmers, didn't look at me. He just stared. I forced a smile. "Welcome to KFC. Let me know when you're ready to order." He paused. Then, in a slow and flat voice, asked, "What time do you close?" I hesitated. 11. He nodded once, then turned around and walked out. I watched him climb back into the van. The headlights flicked on briefly, like he started the engine, but they turned off again. He wasn't leaving. I tried to shrug it off. Maybe he was homeless, just looking for somewhere warm. By the time the last customer left, we began shutting everything down. Mike, the manager, was in the office counting tills. Will was scrubbing the fryers. I offered to take out the trash, mostly to clear my head. I grabbed 2 heavy bags, pushed open the back door, and headed for the dumpster. The night was quiet, the buzz of nearby streetlights the only sound. Then I saw something. A shadow moved behind the dumpster. I froze. My grip tightened on the bags. The figure shifted just enough for me to see a shoe before it pulled back into the dark. My stomach dropped. Someone was hiding out there. I slowly backed away, eyes locked on the dumpster, and then I turned and ran. I slammed the back door shut and locked it behind me. Heart pounding, I rushed to the office. "There's someone behind the dumpster," I said. Mike stood immediately. "You sure?" "Yes. I saw them." He grabbed Will, and the 2 of them went out the front to check. I stayed inside, pacing by the drive-through register, something in me screaming that this was bad. Then, movement. I saw something at the drive-through window. I turned, and there he was. The man from earlier. He stood inches from the glass, staring directly at me. His face was still empty, but in his hands, he held something, a dead raccoon. Before I could react, he began smashing the carcass against the window. Over and over. The dull, wet thuds made my stomach twist. The raccoon's body was limp, fur sticky with blood. Then, he grinned, slowly, eerily. "I know your name," he said. I stumbled back. He'd seen my name tag. I ran toward the front, just as Mike and Will were coming back in. "He's at the window," I shouted. He's hitting it with." We rushed back. But the man was already gone. The cops came not long after. We showed them the footage. They ran the license plate on the van. It was registered to a woman. She'd reported it stolen weeks earlier. There was no trace of him. The only thing left was the smear of blood on the drive-through glass. I never saw him again. But every time I work a late shift, I catch myself staring out into the lot, waiting. Hoping he doesn't come back. Because if he does, I don't think he'll just be watching. I never imagined myself working somewhere like that, but life has a way of dragging you places you didn't expect. After years in the city, where anxiety felt like a second skin, I decided to move somewhere quiet. My doctor said a calm environment might help my mental health, and when I found a job opening at a small-town KFC, it seemed like a good opportunity. But nothing about this place felt good. The restaurant sat alone on the outskirts of town, surrounded by wide, empty fields. The road to get there was cracked and barely drivable. I was already uneasy by the time I pulled into the lot. Inside, it felt even weirder. Unlike other KFCs I'd worked at, this one had a strange, outdated look. The walls were dark wood, making the space dim and almost claustrophobic. The air was too warm, like the heat was constantly stuck on high. And then there was the Colonel Sanders statue. Every location has one, but not like this. This one was made of metal. Rusted. Parts of it were discolored, eaten away by time. And its eyes, they seemed too dark, like they were watching me. Pretty cool, huh? A man said behind me. He had sharp features, a neat beard, and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. You must be Jim, he said, reaching out. I'm Steven. Welcome. I shook his hand, distracted by the unsettling statue. Yeah, cool, I lied. He led me to the back, where I met Rebecca, the only other employee that night. She was distant, cold, almost like she was studying me. Worked at KFC before, she asked. Yeah. Not long ago. I feel pretty comfortable. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. But you're not in the city anymore, are you? Her tone made me pause. No, why? Because things are different here. Stephen put a hand on her shoulder. Relax. We'll talk later. They disappeared into the kitchen, whispering. I just stood there, uneasy. What did she mean by different? I found out soon enough. Stephen gave me a tour, then stopped at a door I hadn't noticed. It was unmarked, unlike the others. Now, he said, let's show you how we really do things. Rebecca opened it. The sound of chickens filled the air. I stepped in, stomach twisting. A live chicken coop. Stephen smiled. We do it the old way here. No frozen junk. Rebecca stepped forward, grabbed a chicken, and, before I could stop her, snapped its neck. I choked on my breath. It's not hard, Stephen said, calm. Rebecca laid the twitching bird on the counter, its eyes blank. This is how the Colonel did it, Stephen continued. And we keep his ways alive. Blood speckled his face. I backed away. I'm not doing that, I said. Rebecca sighed. City people. You eat them but won't kill them. I don't have to do this, I said. Stephen's eyes darkened. The Colonel wouldn't be pleased. I didn't care. I wanted out. Over the next few days, they pressured me. Do it, Jim. You're not one of us until you do. I refused. But things got strange. Late at night, while closing alone, I started noticing things. The Colonel's statue seemed to move. I heard faint whispers in the kitchen. The lights flickered every time I turned my back on the statue. Then, the knocking started. At first, I thought it was a customer. But when I checked, the lot was empty. Still, the knocking continued. Knock. 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 I crept to the back door. Who's there? Silence. I touched the handle. Then, knocking, from inside the restaurant. I spun around. No one. Except the statue. And now, its hands were stained with blood. That night, I had a nightmare. I was in the kitchen, holding a knife. My hands were soaked in blood. Rebecca and Stephen stood beside me, grinning. In front of me, piles of dead chickens. And human arms among them. I woke up gasping. The worst part. I felt the blood. I rushed to quit. When I arrived, Rebecca smiled. "Good morning, Jim. You look different." "What do you mean?" "You finally did it last night." "What?" "You were chopping those necks like a pro." I stared at her, heart racing. I had gone home, hadn't I? Stephen clapped my shoulder. "You're one of us now." My hands began to tremble. I remembered the knife. The blood. The twisted grin of the Colonel statue. And outside, a new statue had been added beside the Colonel. It looked just like me. I never went back. I moved far away, changed my name, tried to forget. But some nights, I still hear knocking. And in the shadows, I swear I see him. Smiling. Colonel Sanders. If my dad were still alive, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be scrubbing grease-caked floors, my back throbbing from standing too long. I wouldn't be dodging uneasy glances from drunken wanderers stumbling into KFC during closing. And I sure as hell wouldn't be nervously eyeing the man in the corner, the one who never ate, only watched. But life doesn't give a damn what we want. Dad died suddenly. One moment he was laughing at dinner, the next he was clutching his chest, gasping for air. Mom screamed. I called for help. The paramedics came, but it was too late. He was gone. Only 42. I was just 16. Too old to be shielded from reality, too young to handle it. Mom barely slept. Bills started to pile up. The house was empty without Dad's voice. So I did the only thing I could, I got a job. Closing shift at KFC. I thought the hardest part would be staying awake. I was wrong. It was him. He was always there. Same booth. Same seat. Same silence. I first noticed him while taking out the trash. The streets were quiet, empty but for a few passing cars. He sat alone, hands around a half-empty Coke. Never ate. Never pulled out a phone. Just sat and watched. I thought maybe he was homeless. His hoodie was faded, jeans stiff from wear. But he didn't feel like a man just looking for shelter. He felt like someone waiting. About a week passed before he spoke. I was wiping the counter when I felt that prickling feeling, you're being watched. You lost someone, didn't you? I almost dropped the rag. His voice was rough, like sandpaper. Sorry. I said, trying to be polite. You've got the look, he said, head tilted. Like someone life hit too hard. I didn't respond. He smirked. I know that look. Doesn't go away. I asked if he wanted anything. Just the usual. A Coke. No ice. Always no ice. When I handed it to him, our fingers touched. Ice cold. He smiled, but his eyes stayed empty. Everyone at KFC was easy to read, drunk students, tired parents, shift workers. But him? He didn't belong. One night, I asked my manager Lisa about him. Oh, that guy. Been coming here for months. Weird, but harmless. Ever seen him eat? She paused. Now that you mention it, no. Just Coke. That didn't sit right with me. One night, I saw him by the dumpsters. You scared me, I said. Didn't mean to. Need something? He flicked his cigarette. You ever think about how easy it is for someone to disappear? That hit like a cold wind. Not really. Most people don't. Until it's them. He took a drag and exhaled slow. I like you, kid. You remind me of me. Then he walked away. Vanished into the dark. I went home sick to my stomach. A week later, I saw his face on TV. Suspect wanted in multiple missing person cases. My stomach dropped. The CCTV showed him. It was definitely him. I called Lisa. That guy from the corner. He's on the news. She checked the footage. He's there every single night for the last 2 months. What do we do? I asked. I'm calling the police. That night, I worked with my heart pounding. Then he showed up. But this time, he brought a woman with him. She looked off, blank, like she wasn't even fully there. I met his eyes. He smiled. That was the last time I saw him. The woman disappeared the next morning. Reported missing. Cops came. Lisa and I gave our statements. They searched. He was gone. I quit the job the next week. I wish I could say I forgot. But sometimes, in the quiet, I feel it again, that tingle on my neck. Like I'm being watched. People like him don't just vanish. And they never forget. Working the late shift at KFC never used to bother me. It had a rhythm, quiet early, a sudden rush, then silence. The smell of fried chicken. The buzz of the fryer. Familiar. But that night felt wrong. Rain had been hammering down for hours. The parking lot was a mirror of puddles. I was alone at the counter. Josh, my coworker, had disappeared into the back, probably scrolling his phone or fiddling with his Rubik's Cube. That's when the black sedan pulled in. It didn't park normally. It rolled right up to the door. Passenger door opened first. A redhead stepped out. Soaked. Pale. Her face was almost too perfect, like a porcelain doll warped by the rain. Then the driver got out. Broad, towering. Dark skin, thick beard flecked with gray. He stared at me. "You can't park that close," I called out. No reply. Just a slow, creeping smile. Then I saw it, the blade. Not a small knife. A full-length hunting knife. "I'm going to kill you," he said. Not a threat. A statement. Like he was commenting on the weather. I froze. My heart slammed in my chest. He stepped forward. "But first," he said, glancing at the girl, "you're going to make us something to eat." I couldn't move. My body locked up. He came around the counter. The girl followed, silent and drenched. Like a ghost. "Faster," he said. I tried to grab a pair of tongs, but they slipped from my hands. "Can you women get any stupider?" he muttered. Silence filled the space. Only the rain tapping on the windows. Then, movement. A soft creak. Josh. He'd returned, standing behind the kitchen door. I prayed he wouldn't do anything. But then. The blur of motion. Josh surged forward and slammed his Rubik's Cube into the man's skull. The guy crashed into the glass display. The knife hit the floor. Josh snatched it and flung it away. Sirens screamed through the night. Blue and red flooded the restaurant. Cops burst in, tackled the man. The girl clung to me, shivering. "It's over," one officer said. But as I looked at the man lying still, expression calm, I realized, this was just another night to him. They told us he had a violent record. The girl had been missing for 2 weeks. I didn't ask what he'd done. I didn't want to know. We sat in the back. Quiet. Wrecked. "You still want to finish your shift?" Josh asked, weakly grinning. "Not even for a lifetime supply of chicken," I said. We clocked out and stepped into the night. The rain had stopped. And for the first time in forever, I felt truly alive.